he goes on to say, like, how people were calling to make sure he was alive. Like, Donald Trump called and said, "Is Vince okay? Are you okay?" And like some of the boys were like, "Did Vince die? Is he okay?" And it's like, dude, if you don't know, that's work. Okay with Trump, but everybody else, like, do you think they would show his demise on television?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
It's corny. It's hokey. All right, so after they show this, they show the storyline about Vince wanting to die, and when he gets in the limo and they blow the limo up, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, they show like a visual and a candlelight thing with Vince's picture and deceased 2007 or whatever it said on it. But then that had to halt because Benoit, the stuff with Chris Benoit happens. And at first, they do a tribute show because they didn't know the details of what happened. But then as the story breaks, turns out we all know the tragedy. Chris, Nancy, and their son died. And the story is told that it was Chris taking everybody's life and then taking his own, which is horrible, absolutely horrible. So Vince didn't want to go that route with, killing himself. So they had to backtrack, do something different.
I was at the show where they played the Vince graphic.
Were you?
Following the explosion, and it was such poor taste while it was all unfolding. It was, I mean, everybody hated it at the time. Nobody liked the storyline. Nobody liked the angle. The biggest thing to come out of it was that Paul London got a ton of heat for smiling during the very somber, the very somber walk Vince had to the limo, and Paul London was standing there, big grin on his face. But I remember it just like people were booing the graphic when it popped up. I mean, it was such a stupid angle at the time.
Yeah,
made no sense because he was going to come back. Like it was one of those things where we're starting to get like ridiculous what they were doing with Mr. McMahon, because it's like, what else could you do with him? He's already like lost the company 10 million times. He's fought every babyface as the evil owner of the company. Now he's dead, and now he's gonna come back. So it's like when all the Benoit stuff happened on the Monday, you're like, oh my God, well, they got to scrap that.
Yeah, exactly. And he goes on to say like how people were calling to make sure he was alive. Like Donald Trump called and said, "Is Vince okay? Are you okay?" And like some of the boys were like, "Did Vince die? Is he okay?" And it's like, dude, if you don't know, that's work. Okay with Trump, but everybody else, like, do you think they would show his demise on television?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
it's corny. It's hokey.
Right. And that's the kind of stuff, like, I just shake my head when I hear that.
I hear you.
Ridiculous.
Well, they had Brian Gershwitz, Brett, Steve. Everybody was sharing their thoughts about, Chris Benoit and what happened. And this gets into, this was really interesting.
Yeah, this was super interesting.
Prince Nowinski comes on, and, he's been an advocate for CTE for like the longest time and has been doing research for years. And he was one of the first people that said that Benoit had CTE. And this shocked me when Steve Austin said he doesn't believe in it.
Yeah.
I was shocked to hear that because I think it's a real thing. Undertaker was saying he was mad that, he's old school. He's mad that the chair shots to the head were taken away. But he does understand why, because of, it affecting people's brains. And you take one too many chair shots, that's not good. So for Steve Austin to say he doesn't believe in it, that I just was left dumbfounded with that one.
That was a shocker.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. I mean, you believe what you want to believe, but I don't know.
They show the clip. They show the Owen pile driver that paralyzed him, broke his neck.
Right.
And, and he said, "Oh, I was dumped on my head once." And that was, they showed the clip. I would shudder to think that Steve Austin has had many a concussion over his career. And, maybe he's lucky enough to not suffer some of the effects that some of the other guys do, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But it's kind of well documented, especially let's take wrestling out of the equation. Okay, wham, it's gone. The NFL players that are suffering now and who have passed away and have documented CTE brain scans. I was shocked by his comments that he was not believing in CTE and their effects. I was very surprised.
Yeah, me too. I just was like, oh, come on. Like, I usually agree with Steve on a lot of things, but this one I was just like, bro, wrong. CTE is a real thing. I remember before Shannon passed away, Daphne, she told me, she said, I told my father I'm donating my brain.
Yeah.
She swore she had CTE. She swore she had it. I am not sure if they ever went through with it. But I remember her telling me over and over again, I have CTE. I know I have CTE. And I'm just like, ugh. Sad.
Yeah. It's incredibly sad. I spoke with a guy who played in the NFL last week, and he was telling me, I asked him, how do you feel? And he said, well, outside of how many times I was hit in the head during my career, I feel great. And he noticeably, and I haven't worked with this guy in about 2 years, he was noticeably slower in every response that I had for a question. Just in general, how are you? Or is this date okay? And working with him 2 years ago, maybe even a year and a half. And his response was, outside of all the hits I took 30 years ago, I'm fine. So if that doesn't tell you that there's long-term effects, super shocked by Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.